Disrespect is often a reflection of the person who is displaying it rather than the one who is receiving it. It stems from a place of insecurity, emotional turmoil, or personal struggles. When someone disrespects us, it usually speaks more about their internal state than our worth or character. People who choose to behave in a disrespectful manner often do so because they are dealing with their own issues, whether it be frustration, jealousy, hurt, or unhealed wounds. They may not have the tools to deal with their emotions properly, or may lack empathy, which causes them to lash out at others. In such situations, it is important to remember that their disrespect is not a reflection of who we are as individuals. It does not define our value or integrity. What it does reflect is their inability to handle their emotions in a constructive manner. Someone who resorts to disrespect is often projecting their own struggles onto those around them. This could be due to past experiences that have hurt them or insecurities that they haven't worked through. Their negative behavior is often a way of coping with their internal discomfort. Take, for example, a person who constantly belittles others. The harsh words or rude actions they direct toward people are often a way for them to feel better about themselves. They might feel inadequate, and by putting others down, they temporarily elevate their own sense of self-worth. Similarly, when someone disrespects us out of jealousy or competition, it can be a sign that they feel threatened by our success, qualities, or abilities. They might be struggling to come to terms with their own feelings of inadequacy and projecting that onto us through disrespect is an unfortunate, though common, reaction. When we face disrespect, it is easy to internalize it and believe that it is a judgment of our character. We may wonder if we deserve such treatment or if we are somehow responsible for provoking it. But the truth is, disrespectful behavior is often about the other person's inability to manage their emotions or their personal issues. It does not validate their actions, nor should it ever make us question our self-worth. Understanding that disrespect comes from a place of inner conflict can help us detach from it emotionally. When we understand that their behavior is rooted in their own pain or frustration, we are able to see it for what it truly is, an expression of their own unresolved issues. This realization can make it easier to avoid taking their actions personally and instead respond with empathy or simply with silence. It is not our responsibility to fix others or to absorb their negative energy. Moreover, recognizing that disrespect is not a reflection of our character also empowers us to maintain our dignity in the face of mistreatment. We can choose how we respond to such behavior, and our response should come from a place of strength, not from a desire to retaliate. It is important to remind ourselves that we do not need to stoop to someone else's level in order to prove our worth or defend ourselves. Our ability to remain composed, calm, and respectful in the face of disrespect reflects our emotional intelligence and maturity. At times, people who disrespect us may not even be aware of the impact of their actions. They may not realize that their words or behavior are hurtful. This lack of awareness is also a reflection of their inability to manage their emotions or consider the feelings of others. Understanding this can help us feel less offended by their actions, as we come to see that their disrespect is not necessarily intentional. In the end, we are not responsible for how others behave or for the way they treat us. Disrespect from others is not an indictment of our character. It is simply a reflection of their inability to manage their own feelings and actions. When we encounter disrespect, we can choose to respond with understanding, empathy, or even silence, knowing that we are not defined by their actions. Silence is often misunderstood. In a world where reactions are encouraged and opinions are expressed constantly, choosing silence can seem like a sign of weakness. However, silence is, in fact, one of the greatest demonstrations of strength. It takes immense self-control, emotional intelligence, and inner peace to remain quiet in the face of adversity, conflict, or disrespect. When we choose silence, we are not surrendering. We are asserting our power in a way that speaks louder than any words could. In moments of anger or frustration, the natural human instinct is to respond. We want to defend ourselves, argue our point, or retaliate against those who challenge or disrespect us. But responding impulsively in the heat of the moment often leads to regret, misunderstandings, and unnecessary escalation. Silence, however, allows us to pause and regain control over our emotions. It gives us the time to reflect on the situation, to consider our words carefully, and to choose whether engaging is truly worth it. This kind of restraint requires a deep level of self-discipline. One of the greatest advantages of silence is that it allows us to maintain our composure and avoid reacting out of anger or frustration. When we remain silent, we prevent ourselves from saying something we might later regret. Words, once spoken, cannot be taken back, and the consequences of a rash response can often have long-lasting effects. Silence, therefore, is not passive. It is an active choice to stay composed, to protect ourselves from making impulsive decisions that could harm our relationships, our reputation, or our peace of mind. Moreover, silence reflects emotional intelligence. It shows that we are in tune with our feelings and are capable of managing them effectively. Emotional intelligence is not about suppressing emotions, but understanding and controlling them. Choosing silence when we feel disrespected or attacked indicates that we are aware of our emotions and can control them, rather than allowing our emotions to control us. In this way, silence is a form of emotional maturity. It demonstrates the ability to process our emotions internally, rather than acting on impulse or emotion. Silence also allows us to gain perspective. When we don't immediately react, we give ourselves the opportunity to step back and see the situation from a broader viewpoint. Often, in the heat of the moment, we focus only on the conflict or the injustice we feel. But by remaining silent, we give ourselves the space to think more rationally. We can evaluate the situation more objectively, assess the motivations behind the other person's words or actions, and decide whether engaging in a conversation is worth our time and energy. Sometimes the best response is not to respond at all. Silence allows us to preserve our energy for more important matters, rather than wasting it on unnecessary disputes. Furthermore, silence in the face of conflict can be a powerful form of communication. Sometimes saying nothing at all sends a stronger message than any words could. By choosing to remain silent, we signal to others that we are not easily provoked, that we value our peace over petty arguments, and that we will not lower ourselves to engage in negativity. It shows others that we are secure enough in ourselves that we don't feel the need to prove anything. Silence becomes a statement of self-respect and dignity. Silence also has the power to disarm others. When someone is disrespectful or confrontational, they may be expecting a reaction, perhaps even an argument. By staying silent, we deny them the response they are hoping for. This can leave them without the ammunition they need to continue the conflict. Often, those who instigate confrontation or disrespect are looking for a reaction in order to feel validated or to assert power. By choosing silence, we take away their power and maintain control over the situation. In this way, silence becomes a tool of strength, not submission. Lastly, silence brings inner peace. Constantly reacting to external stimuli, whether it's criticism, conflict, or disrespect, can drain our energy and disrupt our peace of mind. When we choose silence, we protect our inner calm and avoid being drawn into negativity. In the long run, this preserves our emotional and mental well-being, enabling us to stay grounded in the face of life's challenges. In conclusion, silence is not a sign of weakness, but a profound expression of strength. It requires self-control, emotional intelligence, and wisdom. By choosing silence in the face of conflict or disrespect, we preserve our dignity, maintain our composure, and protect our peace. It is an active choice, one that allows us to rise above negativity and respond with grace and maturity. Silence, in its own quiet way, speaks volumes. In moments of conflict or disrespect, our first instinct is often to react. We feel hurt, angry, or offended, and the impulse to retaliate or defend ourselves can feel overwhelming. However, reacting impulsively can often escalate the situation, leading to further conflict, misunderstanding, and emotional turmoil. It is in these moments that the power of restraint becomes evident. Avoiding escalation is a choice that requires patience, emotional control, and an understanding of the consequences of our actions. By choosing not to engage in the heat of the moment, we can prevent situations from spiraling out of control and maintain our dignity. One of the key reasons to avoid escalation is that it helps preserve relationships. Whether the conflict is with a friend, family member, coworker, or even a stranger, responding aggressively or defensively can damage the relationship in the long run. In moments of tension, words and actions said in anger can create lasting rifts that may not be easily repaired. So, by choosing to remain calm and composed, we give ourselves the opportunity to address the situation thoughtfully when emotions have settled. This approach allows us to avoid saying things we don't mean and to focus on resolution rather than fueling the fire of conflict. Escalation often happens when both parties react to each other's negative emotions. In these situations, one person might lash out and the other responds in kind. This back and forth cycle can quickly intensify the situation, leading to heightened anger, frustration, or even hostility. However, if one person chooses to remain calm and avoid engaging in the negative exchange, it can interrupt the escalation. Silence, patience, and a measured response can de-escalate the situation and create space for a more rational and productive conversation. Another reason to avoid escalation is that it allows us to maintain control over our emotions. When we react impulsively to a provocation, we are giving our emotions the power to control us. In these moments, we often lose sight of our long-term goals, and our desire to win the argument or prove a point overrides our sense of self-respect. This can lead to regret later as we realize that we acted out of impulse and not reason. By taking a step back and refusing to escalate the situation, we maintain control over our emotions and ensure that we act with intention and purpose, rather than reacting out of anger or frustration. In addition, avoiding escalation allows for better problem solving. Conflict often arises because of a misunderstanding, differing perspectives, or unmet needs. If both parties are caught in an emotional escalation, it becomes difficult to address the root of the issue. Emotions cloud judgment, and the focus shifts from finding a solution to proving who is right or wrong. When we choose to de-escalate, we create an environment where both parties can communicate more openly and effectively. Through escalation, we can listen to each other's perspectives, identify the underlying causes of the conflict, and work toward a resolution that satisfies both sides. In this way, avoiding escalation promotes a more constructive approach to conflict. Escalation also tends to create a sense of defensiveness in both parties, making it more difficult to reach a resolution. When one person feels attacked or disrespected, their immediate reaction may be to defend themselves, which can further fuel the conflict. Similarly, the person who initiated the conflict may feel the need to justify their actions or escalate the situation further to win the argument. In these circumstances, both parties become entrenched in their positions and communication breaks down. Avoiding escalation allows us to step out of this cycle and create a space where both parties can be heard without feeling the need to defend themselves. Furthermore, avoiding escalation helps us protect our peace of mind. Conflicts and arguments are mentally and emotionally exhausting. The more we engage in them, the more energy we drain from ourselves. This constant emotional back and forth can lead to stress, anxiety, and frustration. By choosing not to escalate, we protect our mental and emotional well-being, allowing ourselves to stay calm and focused. This choice to preserve our inner peace is a form of self-care that enables us to face conflicts with a clear mind and a calm heart. Ultimately, avoiding escalation is an act of maturity, wisdom, and emotional intelligence. It requires us to look beyond the immediate emotional response and consider the bigger picture. By choosing to remain calm, composed, and rational, we have the power to diffuse tension, preserve relationships, and maintain control over our emotional well-being. Escalating a conflict only leads to more hurt, more misunderstandings, and more frustration. But by avoiding escalation, we create the space for resolution, healing, and growth. It is in these moments of restraint that we find true strength. Purposeful silence is one of the most powerful and often underappreciated tools we can use in our lives. It goes beyond mere quietness. It is a deliberate choice to remain silent in situations where our words might add to the chaos, create unnecessary tension, or escalate a conflict. Silence, when used with intention, can be an act of wisdom, strength, and self-control. It allows us to avoid impulsive reactions, gain clarity, and manage our emotions in a way that leads to more peaceful and constructive outcomes. The first aspect of purposeful silence is that it allows us to pause and reflect. In moments of conflict or emotional turmoil, our immediate instinct is often to react, to defend ourselves, to argue, or to justify our actions. However, reacting in the heat of the moment can lead to regret, misunderstandings, and damaged relationships. Purposeful silence gives us the space to take a step back, breathe, and think before we speak. It allows us to assess the situation objectively and consider the best course of action. This kind of pause is not about avoiding the issue, but about responding thoughtfully rather than reacting impulsively. One of the primary benefits of purposeful silence is emotional control. When we remain silent, especially when provoked or hurt, we demonstrate a high level of emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage our emotions in a healthy way. It means not allowing our emotions to dictate our actions. Silence is a powerful tool for this because it allows us to process our feelings internally rather than expressing them in ways that could harm us or others. In many situations, silence helps us to avoid saying things we don't mean in the heat of the moment. It is a way of preserving our emotional well-being and maintaining control over how we respond. Another key aspect of purposeful silence is that it gives us the opportunity to listen. Often when we are engaged in a conversation or a conflict, our focus is on what we are going to say next rather than fully listening to what the other person is saying. Purposeful silence enables us to listen actively and attentively. When we choose silence, we give the other person the chance to express themselves completely without interruption. This not only helps us understand their perspective better, but also allows the other person to feel heard and validated. Sometimes simply listening is enough to resolve a situation or clear up a misunderstanding. Silence, therefore, becomes a bridge to better communication and deeper understanding. Next, breaking the silence. Silence also creates space for self-reflection and personal growth. When we choose silence in moments of conflict, we have the opportunity to reflect on our own actions, thoughts, and emotions. We can ask ourselves why we are feeling a certain way, what triggered our reaction, and what we can learn from the situation. This level of introspection allows us to grow as individuals and make better decisions in the future. Purposeful silence teaches us to understand ourselves better, which leads to improved emotional regulation, healthier relationships, and more thoughtful decision-making. Furthermore, purposeful silence can act as a powerful form of communication. In some situations, saying nothing at all speaks louder than any words could. For instance, when we are disrespected or insulted, choosing to remain silent can send a strong message that we will not engage in negativity or drama. It shows that we are not easily provoked and that we value our peace over responding to hurtful comments. This silent response can often disarm the other person and make them realize that their words have no power over us. In this way, silence becomes a form of strength and a statement of our own self-respect. Silence also prevents escalation. In conflicts, especially those that are emotionally charged, silence can prevent things from spiraling out of control. When both parties are heated and arguing, words can quickly become hurtful and the situation can escalate into something much bigger than it needs to be. By choosing silence, we stop this cycle before it gains momentum. It diffuses tension and creates a space for calmness and reason to enter the conversation. This kind of silence is not about avoiding the issue, but about choosing a more peaceful and productive way to address it. And additionally, purposeful silence protects our peace of mind. Constantly reacting to external stimuli, whether it's criticism, conflict, or disrespect, can drain our energy and create unnecessary stress. When we choose silence, we protect our mental and emotional well-being by not engaging with negativity. It's a way of saying, I am not going to let this situation disturb my inner peace. In this sense, silence becomes an act of self-care. It allows us to preserve our focus, stay grounded, and maintain clarity in the face of external challenges. In conclusion, purposeful silence is a deliberate and powerful tool that can help us manage emotions, improve communication, and protect our inner peace. It is an act of wisdom and strength, enabling us to reflect, listen, and respond thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively. By embracing silence in moments of conflict, we not only gain greater self-control, but also create the opportunity for deeper understanding, growth, and resolution. Silence, when used purposefully, is not weakness. It is a sign of emotional maturity and inner strength. Choosing your battles is a critical skill that can define your peace of mind, your relationships, and even your personal growth. In life, we are often faced with situations that challenge our patience, our principles, and our emotions. We can be tempted to fight every fight, stand up for every perceived injustice, or engage in every argument. However, not every battle is worth fighting. In fact, understanding which battles to engage in and which to let go of can be one of the most empowering and liberating decisions we can make. The first step in choosing your battles wisely is recognizing that not every disagreement or conflict needs to be addressed. Sometimes, situations arise where a response may seem necessary, but the long-term consequences of engaging may not be worth it. Small conflicts, like minor misunderstandings or insignificant offenses, can often be left unresolved without causing harm. By choosing not to engage in these small, unimportant battles, we preserve our energy, focus, and emotional well-being for the things that truly matter. Additionally, choosing your battles requires an understanding of the stakes involved. In some situations, the outcome of a conflict will have a significant impact on your life or the lives of others. These are the battles that require thoughtful consideration, preparation, and action. Whether it's standing up for your rights, defending a loved one, or protecting your values, these battles are worth engaging in because they align with your core beliefs and have long-lasting consequences. On the other hand, some conflicts are temporary or insignificant in the grand scheme of things. Engaging in them can distract us from our larger goals and lead to unnecessary stress. Another key aspect of choosing your battles is recognizing when the other party is not open to resolution or productive dialogue. If someone is disrespectful, unreasonable, or unwilling to listen, engaging in an argument may not be productive. In these cases, it's often better to step away and conserve your energy for situations where the other party is willing to have a meaningful conversation. Some people thrive on conflict and are not interested in finding common ground or resolving differences. Trying to fight these types of battles can leave us frustrated, exhausted, and emotionally drained. By recognizing when a battle is futile, we protect ourselves from unnecessary conflict. So, choosing your battles also involves understanding the importance of timing. Some issues may not require immediate action or may benefit from a more measured, calm approach. Reacting impulsively can lead to hasty decisions that we later regret. Taking the time to reflect on the situation, weigh the pros and cons, and consider the long-term consequences can help us make more informed choices. This is especially true in high-stakes situations where emotions are running high. Waiting for the right moment to address the issue allows us to approach it with a clearer head and a more thoughtful perspective. In relationships, choosing your battles can be especially important. Every relationship, whether personal or professional, will encounter moments of disagreement or tension. However, not every disagreement needs to turn into a conflict. Sometimes the best way to maintain harmony is to let go of minor irritations and focus on the bigger picture. In personal relationships, it's easy to get caught up in the small daily struggles, but choosing to prioritize the overall well-being of the relationship can help avoid unnecessary arguments. Similarly, in professional settings, engaging in every disagreement can make us appear combative or difficult. Picking your battles carefully ensures that we engage only in the most meaningful conflicts, helping us maintain positive and productive relationships. Moreover, choosing your battles is also about recognizing your own emotional and mental limits. Constantly engaging in conflicts can be emotionally exhausting. The stress of fighting for every cause, no matter how small, can leave us drained and distracted. By choosing to focus on the battles that truly matter, we can conserve our emotional energy and can approach the world with greater clarity and resilience. This allows us to maintain a sense of peace and balance, even in the midst of challenging situations. Ultimately, the art of choosing your battles is about recognizing the value of your time, energy, and emotional well-being. Every conflict demands attention, but not every conflict is worth engaging in. By thoughtfully considering the potential outcomes, the emotional toll, and the long-term impact of each battle, we can make decisions that align with our values and priorities. Sometimes letting go of the small battles and focusing on the larger ones is the best way to preserve our peace, our relationships, and our personal growth. In doing so, we not only protect ourselves from unnecessary stress, but we also become more intentional in our actions, more thoughtful in our responses, and ultimately more at peace with ourselves. Silence as self-respect is one of the most powerful expressions of dignity and emotional maturity. In a world where opinions are often loud and reactions are immediate, choosing silence in the face of disrespect or negativity speaks volumes about who we are and how we value ourselves. It is not about avoiding conflict or suppressing our feelings. Rather, it is about understanding our own worth and choosing not to engage in situations that would compromise our integrity. When we choose silence as a form of self-respect, we are demonstrating self-control, self-worth, and an unwavering commitment to preserving our peace and dignity. Self-respect is about recognizing our own value and setting boundaries that protect our emotional well-being. When someone disrespects us, they are essentially challenging our worth, whether through words, actions, or behavior. While it is natural to feel the urge to defend ourselves in these moments, it is important to remember that how we respond to disrespect reflects our understanding of our own self-worth. Choosing to respond with silence can be a way of saying, I do not need to engage in negativity to validate myself. In choosing not to react or respond to someone's disrespect, we assert that their opinion of us does not define who we are. Silence also reflects an understanding that not every situation requires a response. In many cases, responding to disrespect only serves to escalate the situation, leading to further arguments, misunderstandings, and emotional turmoil. By remaining silent, we remove ourselves from this cycle of negativity. We recognize that engaging with someone who is disrespectful will not lead to a productive outcome, but rather to more conflict. Silence, in this sense, is a way to preserve our emotional energy and avoid getting entangled in unnecessary disputes. It shows that we are not willing to lower our standards or compromise our peace by engaging with negativity. Furthermore, silence as self-respect is an act of emotional maturity. It requires a high level of emotional intelligence to choose not to react impulsively to disrespect. In moments of frustration or anger, the desire to retaliate or defend ourselves can be overwhelming. However, taking a step back and remaining silent demonstrates that we are in control of our emotions. And we understand that responding out of anger or hurt will only perpetuate the negativity, whereas silence gives us the space to process our emotions and decide whether a response is truly necessary. It is a way of choosing peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, and understanding over judgment. Silence also communicates strength. It takes much more strength to stay quiet in the face of provocation than it does to react impulsively. When we remain silent, we show that we are not easily shaken by external forces. We do not need to prove ourselves or engage in petty arguments to feel validated. Our silence speaks for us, demonstrating that we are confident in who we are and that we do not need to engage in negativity to assert our worth. In this way, silence becomes a powerful statement of self-respect, as it shows that we are above petty conflicts and are focused on maintaining our integrity. Another aspect of silence as self-respect is the ability to walk away from situations that are not worth our time or energy. We all encounter people or situations that are toxic or draining, and choosing silence allows us to step away from them without getting caught up in their dysfunction. By refusing to engage with people who continuously disrespect or belittle us, we protect our mental and emotional health. Silence in this sense is an act of self-care. It shows that we value ourselves too much to allow others to dictate our emotions or bring us down. When we choose to walk away in silence, we are asserting our right to prioritize our well-being over unnecessary conflict. Moreover, silence as self-respect reflects a deeper understanding of the value of words. Words once spoken cannot be taken back, and they carry weight. Responding in anger or frustration can lead to things being said that we regret later. By remaining silent, we avoid the risk of saying something hurtful or damaging. This shows that we respect not only ourselves, but also the other person involved. Silence allows us to process our feelings and choose our words carefully when the time comes to speak, ensuring that our response, when it does come, is thoughtful, measured, and aligned with our values. Ultimately, silence and self-respect is about recognizing that we do not need to prove ourselves to others through conflict or confrontation. We know our worth, and we refuse to engage in situations that would diminish it. It is a form of self-protection, a way of preserving our emotional energy, and a demonstration of emotional maturity. When we choose silence in the face of disrespect, we are asserting our dignity, protecting our peace, and reinforcing our sense of self-worth. It is a quiet yet powerful way of saying, I respect myself too much to engage in this.